Before the 2022 NFL Draft, Desmond Ridder had some projections of him going in the first round and being as high as a top 10 pick in the NFL Draft. If you based it on career success in college, Desmond Ridder may have just been the best quarterback in the entire draft. But if you fast forward to current day, he is going into his fourth year in the NFL, where he has already played for 3 teams and is still fighting for an opportunity to get a spot on an NFL roster. What happened to Desmond Ridder? To start this video off, I'm going to be talking about Desmond Ridder in his high school career. Ridder would be the starting quarterback at St. Xavier High School in Kentucky, where he would throw for a career total of 1,825 yards while completing roughly 54% of his passes with 14 touchdowns compared to 12 interceptions, while also being an effective runner on the ground with 1,318 yards and 25 career touchdowns on the ground. His standout season came as a senior, where he was an all-Metro player in Kentucky, throwing for 819 yards, 9 touchdowns compared to 3 interceptions, while being highly efficient on the ground with 879 rushing yards and 16 total touchdowns, while averaging 7 yards a carry. He was definitely more known for his legs than his arm while at St. Xavier. Desmond would still get college looks. It is worth mentioning, though, he wasn't the most garnered player out there, as he ranked as a 3-star outside the top 1,500 players in the nation, and the 2 schools that wanted him on their roster that were D1 was Cincinnati and Eastern Kentucky. Needless to say, he chose the Bearcats. As a true freshman in 2017, Ridder would redshirt, appearing in 0 games. After a season of learning and developing, Ridder would win the quarterback battle, being named the starting quarterback for his redshirt freshman season in 2018. In his first year as a starter, Ridder impressed, breaking out on the scene, throwing for 2,445 yards, completing 64% of his passes, throwing for 20 touchdowns through the air compared to 5 interceptions, while also being effective on the ground, rushing for 572 yards and 5 touchdowns. Cincinnati would also have a lot of team success this season, finishing with an 11-2 record and having a top 25 finish. Going into his sophomore season, Cincinnati and Desmond Ridder were expected to have a big season. And for a team, Cincinnati would improve to an 11-3 record, with an appearance in the American Athletic Conference Championship game. But Ridder would statistically have the worst year of his career. Don't get it twisted, Ridder was still a solid player, but it wasn't like the year he had prior. I guess you could call it a little bit of a sophomore slump. He threw for 2,164 yards, completed 55% of his passes, with 18 touchdowns compared to 9 interceptions, while also rushing for 650 yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns. In a shortened 2020 season, Ridder would have a bounce-back year, winning the American Athletic Conference Offensive Player of the Year as he led Cincinnati to a 9-1 record and a conference title, while throwing for 2,296 yards, completing 66% of his passes, 19 touchdowns in the air compared to 6 interceptions, while rushing for a total of 592 yards with 12 total touchdowns on the ground. He had a very good season. For his last year at Cincinnati in 2021, Ridder and the Bearcats would have the perfect regular season, finishing 12-0, then capping it off with their second straight AAC title. Now being 13-0, the college football playoff couldn't keep them out, as they would be the first ever Group of 5 program to get a bid in the college football playoff, where they would have to play Alabama. Unfortunately for Ridder and the Cincinnati Bearcats, they would lose the game. Ridder in 2021 would be the AAC Offensive Player of the Year for the second time in his career. On top of that, he finished 8th in Heisman voting. Ridder would throw for 3,334 yards, completing 65% of his passes, 30 touchdowns in the air compared to 8 interceptions, while accounting for a total of 355 yards on the ground and a total of 6 touchdowns. Despite the season not ending the way that Bearcat Nation wanted it to, Desmond Ridder solidified himself as one of the greatest players to ever play for Cincinnati, as he had a 42-6 career record, was a 2-time AAC Offensive Player of the Year, a 2-time AAC champion, and led Cincinnati to their first ever college football playoff appearance. His final career numbers would be 10,239 passing yards, 87 passing touchdowns, 2,180 rushing yards, and 28 total rushing touchdowns. Ridder would have a strong showing in the pre-draft process, And in a rather peculiar quarterback class, where it seemed like several teams could be in the quarterback market, the quarterback class for this year's draft was, well, to put it nicely, not the best. Ridder was seen as one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, but just like many others in this class, it wasn't clear who the best actually was or when said best quarterback should be taken. Ridder had projections all the way from a round 1 pick being a top 10 guy to being a 3rd rounder. Going into day 1 of the 2022 NFL Draft, Ridder was expected to be drafted at some point, but this would not happen as Kenny Pickett would be the only quarterback taken on day 1. Desmond Ridder would be the 2nd quarterback taken in the draft in the 3rd round by the Atlanta Falcons. As a rookie, Desmond Ridder would be the backup to Marcus Mariota, but would become the starter at the end of the season. Ridder would start 4 games where, in these 4 games, he went 2-2 as a starter, threw for 708 yards, completing 63% of his passes with 2 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. His performance in those 4 games were good enough for the Falcons to commit to Ridder as the starting quarterback for the 2023 season. 2023 was a year full of expectations for Ridder. Although a young quarterback starting his first season, this is the NFL, where you have to show improvement and win games to keep your job. Desmond Ridder would struggle this season, even being benched a couple games in favor of Taylor Heineke in mid-season. Ridder would play in 15 games, starting 13 of them. The team would go 6-7 in the games he played in, but Ridder ultimately had a major turnover issue. He threw for 2,836 yards on the season, with 12 passing touchdowns to 12 interceptions, while also rushing for 5 touchdowns. But it's also worth mentioning he had a total of 7 lost fumbles. Being a quarterback in the NFL with more turnovers than touchdowns is not a recipe to remain a starter for long. In the offseason, the Falcons signed Kirk Cousins and Ridder was traded to the Cardinals. Ridder's time with Arizona wouldn't make it past the preseason. He lost the backup job to quarterback Clayton Tune. After being released by Arizona, Ridder would sign with the Raiders around mid-season of 2024. Ridder would serve as the backup quarterback in his time with the Raiders, where he would appear in 6 games and start in 1. For the season, he threw 458 yards with 2 passing touchdowns to 2 interceptions and even had 2 fumbles lost. In a season where Ridder needed to show life as a now backup, he would have to have his 2nd straight season having more turnovers than touchdowns. In his 3 seasons in the NFL, Ridder averaged 1 turnover a game and less than 1 touchdown. The Raiders would not re-sign Ridder after the conclusion of the season. Ridder is now going into his 4th year in the NFL, and the signs of life of his career continuing is dwindling. As of this recording of this video, Ridder's most recent opportunity was a mandatory training camp tryout with the Colts. If he impresses, it's not guaranteed it's a roster spot, but merely an opportunity to join the team for the preseason. While Ridder's football career is surely far from over, his time in the NFL could be coming to a close if he doesn't have a resurgence soon.